At this point, many people don't know until now why Hitler stayed still. Why Hitler already advanced to halt before Dunkirk has remained questionable for a long time. There may be a couple of reasons for this, but there are hypotheses such as ordering the battle line to straighten or releasing it for peace negotiation with Britain. For whatever reason, Hitler halting his advance at Dunkirk ultimately sparked defeat in World War II. On June 14, 1940, Hitler's Nazi German forces entered Paris, France. Now that the powerful French army was almost gone and the British had fled by boat to the islands, Western Europe was almost in Hitler's hands. Hitler's desire to occupy the Soviet Union slowly grew. Then came the news that Stalin had seized the power and purged all of his military commanders. Seeing this as an opportunity, Hitler tore up the non-aggression pact between Germany and the Soviet Union and invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. This was another war within World War II. Full of confidence after this victory on the Western Front, Hitler marched toward Moscow. However, during Operation Moscow, Hitler abruptly stopped the advance and ordered that Ukraine, located south of Moscow, be cleared first. Hitler's thinking was that he might be attacked from behind by Ukraine while Germany was going against Moscow. In reality, this invasion of Ukraine was a huge mistake. The Germans made a U-turn right in front of Moscow and went to Ukraine. After destroying Ukraine in one day, they went back to Moscow. At this time, the German troops arrived in Moscow again in October, which was the beginning of the dreadful early winter in Russia. For Napoleon, a decisive defeat was due to the harsh winter weather in Russia. German cavalry tanks, boasting the world's most powerful arms, were helpless in the frozen mud, and the Soviet troops in Moscow had already been thoroughly defended on their way to and from Ukraine. So Hitler changed the target to Stalingrad. The city was the Soviet oil field, and it was also a city that Stalin was so attached to that he put his name on it. Thus began the Battle of Stalingrad, a tragic and bloody battle that resulted in the greatest number of casualties for mankind in a single battle. In the battle that lasted from July 1942 to February 1943, most of the 400,000 German and 1 million Soviet troops were killed, and a total of more than 2 million people, including civilians, were killed. The Battle of Stalingrad was so terrifying that the Germans killed one person every 7 seconds. The Soviets did the same, and the Soviets even gave a rifle to a 6-year-old kid. Thousands of German fighter jets ravaged the city in carpet bombardment, and the retreating Soviet forces marched forward, calling for death in the fight. The situation was particularly dire for the Soviet army, whose supplies were blocked amid increasingly fierce battles. When a colleague running with a rifle died, a soldier following with bare hands from behind picked up the rifle and used it again. Then, in November, the Soviet army started a massive counterattack with a newly developed T-34 tank in front. The 10,000 German soldiers fighting in the city center of Stalingrad were now surrounded by Soviet forces and left in a rat-trapped situation. Now that a year had passed and it was 1943, German Commander General Paulus, realizing that there was no hope, asked Hitler to allow him to retreat. But Hitler never wanted to lose the fight for pride with Stalin. He suddenly promoted General Paulus to Field Marshal. Hitler would promote a general so he would fight with honor for Germany and die fiercely. General Paulus, who was afraid of being killed uselessly, refused Hitler's orders and surrendered to the Soviet Union. In this way, Stalin became a war hero and Hitler suffered a devastating defeat on the Eastern Front. But it wasn't over yet. A battle awaited Hitler on the Western Front that would bring a bitter taste of defeat. Finally, in June 1944, The Allied forces' counterattack began. The Normandy landing operation, the largest amphibious operation in human history, had been started to liberate Western Europe. In order to enter France unnoticed by Germans, 1.56 million Allied troops spread false information, saying they were trying to land in the Strait of Dover further north of Normandy, and destroyed all German radar bases on the Atlantic coast. In addition, extreme bad weather ravaged the French coast, and the Germans made a misjudgment. 1.5 million Allied forces who had completely deceived the Germans rushed into France. But Hitler did not fully understand the situation. The Germans, who missed the timing of the response, began to face consecutive losses, and the German military leadership began to doubt Hitler's military strategies. Some elite officers eventually went on to attempt to assassinate Hitler, with the belief that the war would be over without crazy Hitler. In July 1944, a time bomb went up under a desk in a conference hall, but only an eardrum was torn, and Hitler was shocked by the betrayal of his subordinates. Since then, Hitler no longer trusted anyone. When the Allied forces landed in Normandy and finally advanced to Paris, Hitler gave the order to cross the Red Line. He told the commander of the Paris occupation forces, Coldes, to burn all the buildings and houses in Paris and kill all the citizens. However, Coldes refused Hitler's terrible orders and surrendered to the Allies along with 17,000 men. He later said this during a war crimes trial: "Even if I might become a traitor, I could not be a transgressor of mankind." Hitler was cornered and made a final counterattack through the Ardennes forest. This was the last German counterattack, the Battle of Bulge. Fortunately, bad weather seemed to obscure the German army in the woods. But as the weather got clearer, the Allies found their location and brutally destroyed them. In addition, 1.6 million Soviet troops began to march toward Berlin with tanks and fighter jets from the east. Unlike the US, British, and French Allied forces on the Western Front, the people of Berlin were terrified by the news that the Soviet army was attacking German civilians with revenge and frantic killing. On April 28, 1945, when the Soviet army effectively occupied Berlin, Hitler received reports that there was no chance of success. The next day, Hitler married his lover Eva Braun, and on April 30th, the two committed suicide together in a bunker in Berlin. On May 8, 1945, the Second World War, which plunged Europe into a slaughter and genocide, came to an end when the German army officially signed the document of surrender.